You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. This is Beast Over Burden. I'm your host, Nikki Sims. With me is Andrew Jackson, your favorite co-host.
Hello again.
Hello. And we have a guest with us today. This is a client of mine. His name is Jack Armstrong, coming to you from Switzerland.
Wow.
Yeah. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Long-time fan of the show. So great to meet you guys.
Yeah, we've been working together for a while now, a couple years, I want to say.
Couple and a half. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. But we're really not here to talk about you, Jack. Just kidding.
Who wants to hear that, huh?
No. Well, we wanted to bring Jack on the show because he just completed something really special to help out a friend and his family called the 3 Peaks Challenge, which is something that occurs over in the UK. And I'll go ahead and give a little intro of what that was for and what it was like. And then I want to get into why it was important to you and then how we adjusted your training to prepare you for what you had to do. The 3 Peaks Challenge is as you would guess, 3 peaks that you can ascend and descend. And the goal to make this a challenge is to do this all within 24 hours. So people have proven that you can climb them, come back down, drive to the next one, and do all of that within 24 hours.
How tall are each one?
So it's the highest mountain in each of the 3 countries of Britain, right? So it's the highest in Scotland, the highest in England, and the highest in Wales. So the highest one in Scotland, Ben Nevis, is about 1,300 meters. Sorry, I don't know what that is in feet.
Nobody knows.
And then 1,000 in England and 1,100 in Wales. So the total climbing is about 3,000 meters up and down, which is about 10,000 feet. That I do know, 10,000 feet.
Okay.
That's a lot. That's so much. And to know that it was going to be something that takes 24 hours, that's usually a time that you would be sleeping. And instead of sleeping, you're either driving or walking up or down a mountain.
Right.
Yeah. And you had some weather. We'll get into that in a second because I definitely want to talk about that. But why did you decide to do this?
Well, a good friend of ours, Simon, his daughter, Margot, who is 5 years old, was in April, unfortunately diagnosed with a brain tumor. So she was immediately after that taken into surgery. She had a successful first surgery and had a lot of the tumor removed, but she's now going through round after round of chemotherapy. At the moment, she's doing a particularly nasty, aggressive radiotherapy. And you can imagine, you can't imagine. I mean, I'm father of 2 kids, and I just can't even imagine what the family is going through.
No.
So me and a group of us, there were 8 of us all together, we kind of said, what can we do that's going to cause lots of pain and maybe raise some money for charity? So we settled on this, which did indeed cause lots of pain. I can maybe get into it in a little bit, but the goal was to raise as much as we could for the Great North Children's Hospital, which is the children's hospital in Newcastle that's treating Margot for the cancer. So that's the backstory. That's why we did this crazy thing. It wasn't by choice.
Wow.
It wasn't for funsies. Yeah. That is such a wonderful thing to do it for. Like, if there's any reason to do anything, it's to help someone like Margot, like just a little 5-year-old who should be just getting to be a kid, and she's having to deal with this instead. And her family, like you said, I can't even imagine. It makes me already very emotional. So
yeah,
it's nice when there's a mission. It makes you feel like you can contribute in some way. And it's more than just giving money. It's putting yourself out there on the line and doing it as a group with your friends and giving people a reason to care about it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. You can't do anything. You can't really do anything, as much as we would like to. We can't, there's not a lot we can do. We're bystanders here. It's hard enough for the family who are there trying to support. They also have another daughter, 7 years old. So it's hard enough for them. We're even further removed. So it's like, what can you do, right? So at least it's something that we could do. And that's what we thought.
And you decided to do this about 6 weeks before the event, right? Or that's when I think you told me 6 or 8 weeks before it was going to happen.
Yeah, 6, maybe 2.
And, we had one of our check-in calls where, it's always Jack wondering, so what are we doing this for? And then us deciding, well, let's get your bench press huge. But this time you were like, well, I've got another thing to throw into the mix.
But if possible, can we still get the bench press huge at the same
Yep,
time?
of course. That actually went pretty well. So, yeah, I would really like to talk about what we decided to do with your training because it's interesting. Your back is one of those backs that's really temperamental. We've found ways to work around it, but squats and deadlifts, they've been really challenging to keep in the picture. And we got into a pretty decent groove of what we could do for your squats, but it requires a lot of open-mindedness, a lot of stuff we talked about, being curious, managing expectations. But now we really needed to prepare your legs. So the question was, how are we going to prepare your legs for all the work that they're going to be doing?
Yeah, for context, what did training and work life look like pre-mission? Like, what was it up until April or May?
Yeah, it was 3 times a week in the gym, almost every week.
Home gym.
Home gym, yeah, which is just the best thing. So I work a lot of hours and I have 2 kids, and I guess you have a lot of clients like me who are very, very busy. So it's all about squeezing in those 3 sessions a week, which we usually do one way or another. But as Nikki said, the back has just been problematic for forever. And we've tried deadlifting in the past. It didn't go well. We've taken that off the menu now. So really it was about driving up the bench because that seems to be the one thing I can actually do heavy without pain. So we've always focused on that and sort of tried to work around the back, right? So we kept squats in there, but they're lighter than I would like them to be. But that was the goal, to sort of build the upper body and keep the back ticking over.
Is there something in particular that is a injury or a past thing, or just the way your back works?
It is a torn disc apparently, but I don't know what that really means. I mean,
Right.
I've been told it's torn and that it probably doesn't heal. It's probably stuck that way and I've got to sort of work around it. The initial concept was, let's deadlift and make all the other muscles strong and then the back will get better. And I really, really believed that. And that was what I wanted to do. But it didn't work. Every time the weight got to a certain level, it just caused this horrible, nasty back spasm, which set me back like 2 months.
Yeah.
And we had to kind of switch gears and do something different.
Yeah. And we've been able to still are able to get heavy weights in your hands. We've been able to do that with the bench press, like you said. Now you're in a Globo gym, so I'm getting to load your legs up with the leg press, which has been really fun for me. I hope it's fun for you.
I love the leg press now. It's my new favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I just love putting plates. You don't even count. You just put plates on the thing and then go for it, right?
More.
So good.
And are you based in Switzerland now, or are you just traveling there for work?
No, I live in Switzerland. So I've been in Switzerland for 8 years. I'm originally from Northeast England, Newcastle in Northeast England.
Gotcha.
And that was something that we had to be mindful of. Is you need to be ready to hike for a full day. We can't take the risk of your back acting out, which, as much as we try and navigate, it does what it wants to do. And, some days it's, like we've joked about, well, I sneezed, so now my back is out.
Yeah.
Then we have to be really patient with it to let it run its course, but we needed to get your legs ready. So, and when we're getting ready for a hike, and I know, Andrew, you've had not just a hike, it's a lot more than that. You've had experience preparing some of your clients for this, but there's so much to ask of the knees, lots more range of motion than you would usually do in a squat. Very unilateral, lots of downhill movement that will make your legs so sore. So that's what I really wanted to get your legs ready for. And then we were slightly limited by how much weight to put on your back, but at the same time, that was okay because we used pause squats and tempo squats and lunges just all the time. Now you were doing lots of legs 3 times a week, really high rep.
Right. So we couldn't load it, but we could just do endless walking lunges until you sort of want to curl up and die.
Yep.
So that was what we did, right? And the pause squats, the single leg work, it was all helpful. It was all really helping, right? But then I guess as we went through it, the goal was to get the knees stronger. And we did. But then I started to feel knee pain, fatigue in the knees. And as we got closer and closer to the actual challenge, I started to think, have we actually gone too far and done some damage? So that was a little bit touch and go for a moment.
Yeah. And I kind of knew that was going to happen because we were really challenging, more than just your muscles. We had to challenge your tendons and ligaments. And that's a different experience for that kind of tissue because there's not as much blood. So I think the way they feel the training is different. And also just such an increased frequency of how many knee bends you were doing per week. So I knew we were going to run into some soreness and discomfort. And I was hoping you would get to feel that before the hike. And so that would be a little bit less during. But did you feel like by the time you were on the mountain, they were recovered, or did it still feel like in the sketchy zone?
No, the knee pain resolved just in time. It was literally a few days before I flew to the UK. I could still feel it and it went away.
That sounds like preparing for a meet, like
It
6
does.
to 8 weeks before a meet. You kind of almost want to feel like you're
Like you never want to lift again.
questioning your choices.
Yes.
And then you start to taper towards the end. I assume you guys did a taper and
Yeah, we did. And I mean, I was also hiking. I mean, that was the other element of the training.
oh, right.
That was a new variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was taking a toll.
How often were you able to go hiking?
I tried to do once a week for a proper one. So 4 or 5 hours. So, I mean, I live in Switzerland, which is the perfect training ground.
Yeah.
Literally, I can walk out the back door and climb a 1,400 meter hill. So it's perfect
Okay.
for training.
Okay.
And then once to twice a week, try and do at least a sort of relatively fast up and down for an hour when I could squeeze it in on a lunch break from work or whatever it might be, basically. But the one time a week, 3 to 5 hours, that was the goal. And to keep up the 3 weight sessions as well, right? So it was adding to what I had done before.
Yeah. And you were noticing like your traps were really sore, like that was new, like your back was feeling, because you had a pack on. Those were new things that you hadn't been encountering before. So then you had to get your feet prepared.
Did I hear you correctly? You said 1,400 meter right outside your back door.
Right. Yeah.
Right outside your back door is a peak higher than all 3 of the highest peaks in all of the UK.
Higher than anything in the UK. Higher than anything in the UK.
Like, wait
yeah.
a second,
Yeah.
let's fly somewhere and then drive.
But not all peaks are created equal. And that was actually something that actually put me in a false sense of security,
Oh, interesting.
because I was like, I climb this every week. This is fine, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the hills in Switzerland, the trails are very nice. You're walking mostly through woods or through grass. You're on some steep parts, but it's a relatively nice, easy trail. That was not how it was when we got there.
Yeah, take us through the day. I want to know what the day was like.
So you have to be sort of tactical about your timing, right? Because you don't want to be climbing entirely in the night. We drove up to Scotland, which takes already 6-7 hours. So you drive all the way up to begin. You have your sort of last meal. We had a lunch at the pub before we got to the bottom of the first mountain. And then we started, I think it was about 6 p.m. So it was August. So we had daylight until quite late. So we started at 6 p.m. and up we went. And this is obviously the biggest one of the 3. So you start from sea level. So it really is 1,350 meters from up and down. So up and down Ben Nevis, we came back down at about 11 p.m. We got changed and then we got in our minivan and off we drive. So we were also taking turns to drive. I guess when some people do this challenge, they have a driver. With hindsight, that would have been really a good idea. But we were taking turns doing sort of 2 hours each at the wheel. So we left at about 11 p.m., drove through the night, arrived at the next hill at 5 o'clock the next morning and started.
How were you feeling at the beginning of the second one?
Yeah, really.
Just awful. After you've been up and down and then you've tried to get a little bit of sleep in the car, you just feel so, you get out of the car and everything hurts and you just think, what am I doing?
What kind of car are we talking about? Like, you're not able to stretch your legs out. You're like leaned up against a window trying to sleep kind of thing.
Exactly that. So there were 8 of us in a 9-seater minibus. So there was no space for anything. Everybody was cramped in. You just try to close your eyes and get into some sort of rest. I mean, you're not really sleeping, but you do your best.
Right.
That was about 5 o'clock in the morning. We went up and down that one. We came down as the sun had come up. We got down at about 9 a.m. And then we drove what should have been, the last stretch should have been until about 1 p.m. And then we would have had the last hill to climb. Unfortunately, the traffic didn't work in our favor on the way down. So we got stuck. So we lost about an hour and a half in traffic. And that was it. That killed the 24 hours.
Oh, man.
It was done.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Literally the worst. Out of all the pain and suffering, that was the worst moment. Sitting, looking at the bumper in front of you and just watching the clock tick and just knowing you weren't going to do it.
Right.
But we got there and we did the last climb as well. So we made the 3 climbs within our target time. So the goal was to do 14 hours climbing and 10 hours driving. And in the end, it was 14 hours climbing and about 11 and a half driving. So we did it in about 25 and a half.
Nice job.
So we technically didn't do it, but I feel like, what's in your control, we did what we could. So
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And you still did it. Like you were still like, well, we're still going to do this third one.
We still went up and down the third one. And the third one, I mean, the pain on the second one was bad. On the third one, literally, we got out of the van and I remember I couldn't even put weight on my foot. I was like, what have I done to my ankle? And I had kind of turned my ankle on the other hill so that I was like, guys, I don't know if I can actually go, but let's just go. There were others, I could see everybody had these expressions of pain on their face,
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just about whether you push through the pain or not. And we did. I mean, all 8 of us made it, which I think was really what also helped. I think if one person had dropped out, then there would have been an effect on everybody else. But you didn't want to be the first to drop out. So you just kept going and everybody was in agony by the end, really. I mean, it was just in exercising, tolerating pain. So yeah, it was fun.
Was going up or down the hardest part?
100% going down.
Yep.
100%. I mean, maybe some of the other guys would disagree, but for me, I think, relatively okay shape, cardio-wise, and, climbing the hills is okay for me. But coming down, the knees,
Brutal.
the risk of slipping as well. I mean, it was
Yeah.
pissing down with rain basically the entire 24 hours. So everything was wet and slippery.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was watching I think it was the Open this year. It was British Open. It was in July or August. And Mac McGregor, one of our coaches, is out there in Scotland. And I remember we had one of our regular meetings. I'm like, what? Do you guys even have a summer out there? Like it's in July or August or something like that. And it's like sideways rain.
Yeah.
I'm like, when is the weather good?
Yeah. When is the weather
This
good?
was the peak of August. It should have been the best time of the year to do this thing.
Right. Instead, you had 13 hours of rain.
Yeah, and it was worse than that. I mean, I had been training in Switzerland and it's 30 degrees Celsius here. What's that? 90 degrees. The challenge is not overheating, not getting sunburned, not, being hydrated.
Right.
But there, I mean, the first was the worst. The one in Scotland, it was, as we went up on the top, it was 4 degrees Celsius with a wind chill of -4. So it was well below freezing, hailstones and 70-mile-an-hour wind. That's like,
What?
It was unbelievable. It was like almost hurricane wind on the top.
Like, isn't Everest a better condition than that?
And we weren't really prepared for that. I mean, we had coats, we had jackets, but we really needed ski clothes, gloves, hats, everything. And we didn't. So we were also freezing, soaking wet.
Oh my gosh.
And this just,
and then you hop in a car.
yeah. So
No shower. Like, you guys didn't even have time to like clean up or anything?
Yeah.
trying to get changed to get in the car, you were trying to get changed into dry clothes. But it was just raining. It was just hammering down with rain. So we're all standing around in this car park trying to somehow get dry as fast as possible.
Amazing.
And pile into the car. Yeah.
On the clock. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was always in your mind to be as fast as possible, right? We got to move. We got to get going.
Right.
So yeah, that just really, really added to the fun.
And then I imagine driving in that weather was also a nightmare.
Exactly. Yeah. So driving through the night in the rain, we probably lost some time. We tried our best, but we probably lost some time already just in the conditions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the British weather could have certainly helped us out a lot more than it did. It was truly awful weather all the way.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Makes for a good adventure story though.
What did you eat when you were done? Like, were you hungry? Did you guys go to the pub again? Or were you just like, I never want to see you again. I'm going home.
When we were done, we went directly to the pub. So there was a pint of beer waiting at the very bottom of the hill, literally. So that was
Oh, that's
the best. And then we went back to the nearest village, got a quick shower, and went out to the pub and had some more food. But then, we were saying, let's go out for a few drinks. And after we had the dinner, we were done.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess at that point, 36 hours or even more without sleep, right? So it was, it hit you really hard by that point.
Big time. Yeah, I remember after doing meets, we would all be so excited, like, let's go out to eat, let's go get some beers. And then more than once, I would just be sitting at the table and just like nodding off just from all the adrenaline, all the physical effort. And then you get like half a beer and you're just like, oh, I'm also really dehydrated. I need to go to bed.
It's the combo. Yeah. The fatigue and the mental fatigue as well, for sure.
Yeah, there's a race that I did a couple times in Oregon called the Hood to Coast race, where you would run from the top of Mount Hood as a team. It was a 24-hour relay race to the coast. And it took about 24 hours, and people in a bus, you just piling in, trying to sleep in the similar kind of condition. And I can remember that feeling of getting out of the bus for the second leg. Usually was in the middle of the night, like 2 or 3 in the morning. Usually started at 5 in the evening or something like that. And even at that age, when I think I was like 18 or 19, nothing moved right. You're just like completely stuck, like running like a tin man.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine. What was the age of the group of guys?
We're all in our mid to late 30s. So I'm 37. We're all in the 35 to 37. Yeah.
Could not imagine.
Yeah.
Is there anything in hindsight that you guys would do different in your training? Or do you feel like the hypothesis that you had preparing was accurate?
I think some of the guys probably should have trained more. They'll admit that.
Oh, yeah. Like, how did you compare? How were the rest of the guys training or preparing compared to you? And did you notice a difference?
We were certainly within a wide range, let's say.
Are you going to send this to them? Is that why you're holding back a little bit? You want to say anybody by name?
Adam Gallagher. Let's say Adam Gallagher should have done a bit more training.
Adam's getting called out.
But he did buy sticks. So that made all the difference. He bought the walking sticks.
Smart. That's actually really smart.
He was flying right up until he threw up at the halfway up the second mountain. He was going great,
Sticks aren't going to help with that.
But he kept going. That's the cool thing. He kept going. So
no.
Good job, Adam.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, some of the guys are already in pretty fit shape. Some of them have more active jobs. There's a lot of us who are sort of corporate desk jockeys, and then a few others who are in the police, or one guy's a golf coach. So those guys already do a fair amount of walking and training. So they had a little bit of a head start. But yeah, I think everybody tried to do at least some practice walks, and I think we could have done more. But I would say I don't think anything would actually prepare you for the knee pain, the ankle pain. I don't think any amount of training in the world, other than if you did this every week for fun, if this was your sport, I don't think you could have prepared for that.
Right.
I have a client that goes hunting in Alaska once a year in the fall, and it's hunting mountain goats. And so he's climbing. I mean, it sounds actually horrible as well. It's usually really cold, raining, waking up in the morning in tents in a pool of water, carrying a bag, chasing up and down these like no path at all kind of terrain, sharp, jagged rocks. And we do very similar things. We do lunges, and we prefer, usually go high bar squat and just really try to get into like a lot of deep knee bending, step ups. And every year we sort of try to iterate a little bit on it. And he lives in Ohio, so doesn't have the backyard to, go on hikes, but he rucks when he can. And we've pretty much come to the same conclusion as well. It's, it gets a little better every year. He's a little bit more conditioned to it. His knees are a little bit more tolerant, but
it's a beating.
You just can't prepare for that kind of up and down and repetitive, especially the down, just like you said, unless you were doing that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but he definitely feels, I mean, he's in his 50s and he's out there with his son and guide that's in their 20s, keeping up with these guys. So, I think the training he feels like prepares him as best he can without being able to go up and down mountains. He's also a corporate executive, CEO of a company. So he's, his day is mostly sitting behind a desk, but do the best you can and just know you're going to be suffering at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, speaking of suffering, the next couple of weeks were not a walk in the park in the gym after that.
Oh, yeah. What was the recovery like?
You showed up to training, but man, it was kind of just like, I don't have an ankle anymore. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. Like, that was a tough couple of weeks.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention the back true to form, right? Played up just before we went. So that was also,
Oh, that's
I was
right.
actually on painkillers before we
Yeah.
started because the back did its usual trick right before we went. So yeah, I had back pain, knee pain, everything pain. And when you come back and you sleep, it doesn't get better, right? The next day was just so painful.
Yeah.
And what did we even do, Nikki? We did what we could. I think I did some empty bar squats and called it a day, but we did something. We did something.
Incline. Yeah, we did so much benching.
Sure.
It was like high bar squats at 20 kilos.
Right.
Yeah, just right back into all the benching and then just testing the waters. Although you actually got back into squats the next week. Yeah, it was just a lot lighter, which is really cool. You even did some front squats, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't that long after that you got into the gym and you were on the leg press. So I know it felt like dog shit, but you went back into your training. Like, that is such an opportunity for someone to be like, okay, I'm taking a month off from the gym. You didn't do that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
But, it helped. I mean, doing the empty bar squat, my knees felt a lot better after that than it did before I started. The first set felt awful. The first set felt like broken glass in my knees, but it felt okay. And it got better as I got warmed up, right?
Yeah.
So I think actually the training helped me to recover faster in terms of getting over the pain, for sure.
How did the charity go? How has that part of it been?
Really good. We got, so we had a target of £5,000. We got 6, which is great. But what's also really cool is there's a bunch of other people doing a bunch of other stuff. So it's all under this banner of Miles for Margot. One of our friends did 5K run a day for a month. He just did that on his own. That was quite cool. There's people doing marathons. There's people doing sort of other physical related tests. So I think we're on about 30,000 now as a team, which is really, really good.
That's so cool.
It's so cool to see everybody just doing stuff.
Yeah.
This weekend, they actually did you guys would probably like this. It was like a full 1-day gym session. So they did like a CrossFit workout, and then they did powerlifting, and then they did something like yoga and this high rocks. I've never heard of this high rocks, but apparently it's a bit like CrossFit. It's like it's a new thing. So they did this thing all day long from open till close of the gym, and it was called Margot's Movement Marathon.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And they also raised a good bit of money. So it's really good. It's really good to see everybody getting involved and doing what they can. Really cool.
If anybody wants to contribute and give Margot some love, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, we have a Just Giving page, so maybe you could link it in the show notes.
Sure.
They can follow the link, and every dollar counts.
Yeah.
It's really appreciated. If anybody wants to do that, that would be super.
That's awesome. I'm rooting for her. I just like what you all have been putting yourself through. It's just like you have to keep slogging and hope that it gets better. And then you just one foot in front of the other. So I hope her family's doing well. I'm thinking of her older sister too. It must be really hard for her, but yeah.
Yeah. At some point we were in the car all complaining and whinging, and somebody in the back, I think it was Paul, said, guys, this is hard, but think about what little 5-year-old Margot's doing. Let's get on with it, So it's, maybe a bit corny thing to say, but it's right. It's true. It's true. She's so tough.
Yeah.
She's unbelievably tough.
Yeah.
It's crazy how well she's doing, and she's still bright, and she's still sort of running around on the breaks that she gets, and she's so full of energy and so tough. I don't know where it comes from. It doesn't come from her dad. I know that for sure. So it must be from Helen.
So cute. Well, I'm going to keep thinking about Margot and rooting for her. That's so sweet. And I love what you all did to just like support her family too. It's just nice to know when you're going through something like that you're not by yourself, and you were able to do something really challenging. You made it work with all the demands that you have in your life. And I really appreciate how much you put into it.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you for the coaching and the donation, Nikki. That's appreciated. Really appreciated.
Oh, of course. Yeah. It was fun. I look forward to the next surprise you bring on one of your calls.
Well, what the guys are saying now is we didn't actually do 24 hours. So shall we try again next year?
Got to do it again.
I remember in the car driving home, we said, we will never, ever, ever do this again. This is it. And fast forward 2 weeks and it's like, oh, it wasn't so bad, right? And if we just left a little earlier, we could have beat traffic. And no, I'm out. I'm done.
It begins. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And again, really wonderful job.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. That was awesome to hear. And best wishes to Margot and her family. And
best wishes to Adam, who sounds like he needs some coaching.
Yeah.
I'll give him your number.
Yeah, awesome. So we will definitely leave that page in the show notes. And everybody, thank you so much for listening. And we will see you here next week on Beast Over Burden.
Bye-bye.